Do any of you remember that last Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie where it had been so long since they made another one that they had to do different actors and that people were upset that some of the new actors weren't the old actors? And then there was that meme going around, hashtag not my Roderick. Well, they should bring that meme back for this movie. Hashtag not my Grinch. The Grinch is Illumination Animation's retelling of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. That was the easiest plot summary I've done for a movie review. I honestly didn't like this movie. And I'm kind of surprised that there's a bunch of people that found it good. But I'm getting too far ahead of myself. There is some good in this movie. For one, the animation I thought was good, and compared to other movies that Illumination Animation has done over the past couple years, it's the one that they seem to work the most or put the most effort into. I like the little details that were put into this movie, such as them walking through the snow and leaving snow prints and the snow sticking to their feet. And there's a bunch of little details here and there like that that I really enjoyed. And it really did feel like they put a little bit more effort in this movie rather than some of the other ones that feel so basic, simple, and lazy at times. With that being said, there's still a few things in the animation that I didn't like, such as some of the character designs. There was two character designs in particular that really reminded me of their other works. Max looked like he would have fit well in The Secret Life of Pets and looked almost nothing, looked nothing like the dog they used for the Jim Carrey version or the dog that was in the original classic animated film. And Cindy Lou Who, for me, looked a little bit like one of Gru's children or Gru's adopted children in the Despicable Me franchise. I can't remember if she looked like the middle child or the youngest one or like a combination of the two. There's just something about her hair, her design that reminded me too much of one of the daughters. And for most studio cases, most directors and most things of that nature, putting a little bit of their own creativity and putting a little bit of themselves in the movie that's supposed to be an adaptation are things that can normally be appreciated because it's like they're making it their own. But when Illumination does it, for some reason, for me, it feels like they're just reusing things from other films that they've done. There are 3 scenes in this movie that I legitimately liked. The scene where the Grinch hatches the plan to steal Christmas is pretty good, especially when he's walking up the stairs and you see his shadow in the background, and the shadow is twisted and evil looking, almost demonic like, and that's the only scary, non-safe thing that is in this movie. And I appreciated that. I wish there was a little bit more of showing the Grinch's evil side. I also like the montage and the whole scene of him stealing Christmas. The creative gadgets that he makes. It's very fun, it's very outlandish, and it's one of the best scenes in the movie. It takes an hour for him to steal Christmas when the original cartoon, I think, is like 30 or 45 minutes long, something like that. But in this one, it takes him an hour just to steal Christmas, or to start stealing Christmas. And let's face it, this is a classic adaptation. It's the second remake of an animated film, and that was an adaptation to a Dr. Seuss book. So we all know that the Grinch is eventually going to change his heart, and he's going to give all the gifts back that he stole. And the scene after he gives back all the gifts, the scene where he's actually invited to a Christmas dinner, and he actually joins the Christmas dinner, I think that was a legitimately good scene. It is the last scene in the movie, thankfully, I do feel that the final line that he gives in his toast at the end is a little too much for me and a little too cheesy. But everything else in that scene I thought actually was good. So I liked the animation, and I liked 3 scenes in the movie. But that's not enough to say it's a good movie. This was pretty darn bad. The thing about Illumination movies that I've noticed lately is there's only one movie that I've legitimately liked, or at least really enjoyed, and that is the first Despicable Me. Everything else has either been awful or just so plain, so mediocre that it's okay. I can't say it's bad, but it's just so safe and so... I guess it's so well liked because of how safe some of them are, but that makes them a little bland and a little less personality. And they went that route with the Grinch, and unfortunately that makes it even worse. Because they've made the Grinch safe, and the Grinch in this movie isn't even a Grinch. The Grinch is too nice. How could I possibly say that in a Grinch movie? How could the Grinch be too nice? They managed to do it in this one. Just imagine if Ebenezer Scrooge in any of the Christmas Carol adaptations that they've had over the years, just imagine if he was an okay, nice guy that's just a bit lonely and a bit annoyed. That's just as bad as what they did here in The Grinch. Dickish, all the nasty and mean things you see him do in this film were all revealed in the trailer. It's almost like they had just enough mean things for him to do so that they can put it all in a trailer and then sell it to you. But everything else in the movie, he's just nice. He's nice to his dog. His dog is his best friend. He only yells at him once in this movie. And I know it's like, well, we don't want to see cruelty to animals. Well, the Grinch was a dick to his dog in both of the other films. Both the Jim Carrey live action movie and the original cartoon. And it's because he's a nasty fella. He's nice to his dog. He's only slightly annoyed by the Who's in Whoville. And he's slightly irritated by Christmas. Mostly this movie, he's just lonely and sad that he doesn't have a family. I don't mind that the Grinch has a backstory and that he's sad and lonely and just wants a family. But when that's all the Grinch is in this movie, and it doesn't even help define him to the point where, or it doesn't even, he doesn't even use that as an excuse to be nasty and mean, because he's barely nasty and mean in this movie. And then they still have the narration in this movie where they're questioning why the Grinch is so mean, and then the narrator saying, well, maybe his heart is 3 times too small. Nothing in this movie convinces me that he's so mean that he has a heart 3 times too small. And then the movie constantly has moments where he makes a change, or he feels bad for his actions, or he does something nice to people that he's learned or gotten used to, such as the animals, such as Max the dog, and what was it, Fred the fat reindeer? It's almost like throughout the movie his heart grew, and then at the very end, that's when the narrator says his heart grew 10 times its size or something like that. No, movie. He had a change of heart like 3 or 4 times before you said he did. And this movie wasted Benedict Cumberbatch. Benedict Cumberbatch voices the Grinch, and when I heard that, I thought, okay, deeper, sinister voice, maybe his Smog voice, maybe his Khan voice, maybe even just his Doctor Strange voice. And I'm thinking, deeper voice. Benedict Cumberbatch would have been great as the Grinch. He is the Grinch in this movie. Unfortunately, I don't know if this was his decision, or maybe the studios maybe the studio thought that his voice was a little too scary for kids or something. Because in this movie he has a whiny, nasally voice that really doesn't match the Grinch or what our expectations of the Grinch could be. I mean, it fits for his character in this one because he's just a lonely character who wants a family and takes it out on the Who's by stealing Christmas. But it was a poor choice, I feel, in this movie. There's also a whole lot of filler in this movie. Unnecessary side stories, unnecessary filler. Now, in this movie, they do have a side story for Cindy Lou Who, where she has a single mother in this one, and the mother is busy, and she has a hectic life, trying to do everything she can to be a single mother. And Cindy Lou Who, all she wants for Christmas is Santa to help her mother. And so there's this whole side story with her planning to trap Santa when he comes over on Christmas Eve so that she can speak to him face to face. And so that's why they have the encounter at the end. But they overcomplicate that side story and add too many things that don't really go anywhere. Like at one point, she has like a whole gang of kids to help her, and she convinces them to help her, and then suddenly the next scene, they have already made the trap, I guess, and they just test it out, and then you never see the rest of the kids again other than her best friend. That's not the only side story that just gets left off. They have a whole sequence where the Grinch needs to find a reindeer because he wants to impersonate Santa. So Santa has reindeer, so we got to get reindeer. And so that's where Fat Reindeer Fred comes along in this movie. They spend so much time getting him and capturing him and then having him in the whole like planning process. And then at one point Max is jealous of Fred because Fred does something like make the coffee, which Max usually does. And the Grinch goes, "Ooh, this is one of the best coffee I've ever tasted." And so Max gives Fred a dirty look. And so I'm like, okay, the trailer revealed that Max is going to pull the sleigh just like all the other ones. So eventually Fred is going to get kicked out somehow. And so I thought the plot was going to lead to Max kicking out Fred somehow or blaming Fred of doing something, and framing him. It doesn't go that way at all. It's almost like the creators forgot that they had that mean look that Max gave Fred because suddenly they're best friends and then Fred leaves because the Grinch sees that Fred has a family and he's like, "Well, I can't take you away from your family. Go ahead, Fred. Go leave. We don't need you. We'll just do it ourselves. You're free." Thanks for wasting our time, movie. I mean, sure, Fred and his family show up in the climax of the film and save the day, but they save the day, which steals the Grinch from being able to save the day. That moment where the Grinch tries to push off all the presents and all the Christmas decorations and everything off a cliff, but then has a change of heart, so he heroically saves the day by pulling it up and preventing it from falling off the cliff. He doesn't really do that. It's Fred, his family, and Max that help pull him up. I mean, the Grinch grabs the sleigh, but they pull him up. The movie doesn't even let the main character save the day. Thank you. Another thing that I really hated about the movie is the remake of the classic You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. Yeah, that song is remade. What's the artist's name? Tyler, the Creator, I think. When that song plays in the movie, with that rendition, it was like my ears were bleeding. It was awful. This is pretty much an unnecessary remake of an animated feature. It really doesn't bring anything great to it, anything new to it, and at the same time it fails to capture the essence and the meaning of how the Grinch stole Christmas. I think you're better off seeing the original animated film. Hell, the Jim Carrey version, it has its flaws and it is pretty bad as well, but I would say that's even more watchable than this new Grinch. And I can appreciate the Jim Carrey version a little bit more because they had the boldness to actually do a live action version, and they even added a whole theme about capitalism, or like the capitalism of Christmas, or is it the capitalism, more maybe commercialization of Christmas. They had that sort of theme going in it, and like the greed and stuff as well, that really isn't in the original classic or isn't even in the book either. It's like something they added to it that actually helped enhance it a little bit more. So at least the Jim Carrey version has those two things going for it. The Grinch doesn't have that at all, or anything else going for it. But at the same time, it's watchable at least, so I'm going to give the Grinch 2 stars. And it rounds up to 2, so it's worse than 2 in my opinion, but again, it's close enough where I'd give it 2 for this review. So, have you seen The Grinch? What'd you think about it? Go ahead and comment below. And if you liked this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and check out my movie reviews or countdowns of this year or previous years of whatever. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was Just My Opinion.